Yeah. All right. Would you all please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We've got an audience this evening. Oh, yeah. We like. All right. Well, with that, we'll call the August 16th, 2023 Damariscotta Board of Select Board meeting to order. If a couple of small things, we do have an addition to the agenda for official action items. So I should see in your packet, there's we'll go over that when we get to agenda items, official action items. If it pleases the board, we do have a official action item for an application for an on premises license for Schooner Landing. Representative Schooner is here, so if it's the same as the board, I'd like to move that one up on the agenda.
Yeah, you probably like to go back to work.
Probably like to go back to work. Yeah. All right, we'll move to the end. So if we can entertain a motion, if it's fine with everybody on the board.
I'll make a motion that we approve the liquor license for Schooner Landing.
All right, Tom made the motion. Andrea seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Carries, yes, they'll get it.
Probably by lunchtime.
Yeah, perfect. There you go. Go back to work. Thanks, Scott.
Up to good work.
Yeah. All right, we get back on track here. So we do have minutes of August 2nd. Everybody had a chance to take a peek at those.
I'll move the minutes.
I'll second that.
Josh moves, Dan seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? All right, motion carries. We're good. Financial reports.
Payroll warrant number 6.
Number 6. Okay, I'll second payroll 6. Yep. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. And we have accounts payable number 7.
I'll move accounts payable number 7.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Somebody want that one?
Second.
Oh, Tom's gonna second it. Okay, any discussion?
I haven't seen it yet, so.
You haven't seen, okay, yeah, yeah,
That's fine.
that's fine.
Oh,
You can abstain if you need to, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'll just abstain for.
Yeah, okay. All those in favor? Okay, got 4, and then Dan's gonna abstain. You haven't seen it yet, so perfect. All right.
Pass them on.
Okay.
Andy, we've got some stuff on the citizen comments and general correspondence list there.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 or 3 items, so.
Real quick, the MMA risk management service, we've gotten a reimbursement back from the, well, all the towns pay into the program, and so if there's fewer injuries than expected or less of a payout, then we get dividends back. So we get some dividends back on that.
It's a good thing.
Yes. Provided, I hadn't done it, I don't think before, but we get weekly, the Coastal Rivers Conservation Trust does water testing at some of the public swimming areas around town. So just shared that with you. It'd come in when I was putting the packets together. So just give you a chance to see what that looks like.
They're not all in our Damariscotta, right?
Not all of them, but some of them. Bisky Beach and
Well, it was only Bisky that came up high, right?
they're all suitable for swimming.
Oh, they are?
Yep.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, Bristol Mills, Bisky Beach, and place on Pemmick with I don't know exactly which location that is.
Okay.
And then just sharing an email from Lisa Hagan.
Pumpkin Fest.
It was about the Pumpkin Fest. I guess the festivals in the running for US Today's top fall festivals.
That's cool.
That's a bad idea.
Oh.
It's a good thing Scott left.
I'm just saying. Do you know how many people I could bring to our town?
I know the organizers are very excited. The chamber seems pretty excited. I was just sharing it with the board.
I'm sure they are.
Asked us if we'd share that or promote that on our, as a partner and things at times. I haven't done it yet, but just wanted to share that with the board. And we'll put that through on our Facebook page as well.
So speaking of Pumpkin Fest, I shared something with you the other day. So I just a little aside, an anecdote. Sorry to lengthen this out for you.
Hey, it's all right.
But I received I ordered a book from a bookseller and out of I can't remember what state they're at, but anyway, I receive it, go to the post office, I open the box up and they package books in a nice box and you tear it open, whatever. So I open it up, take the book out, and then on the bottom of the cardboard, mailer, it says, enjoy your pumpkin fest. We did last year. So I meant to bring it in tonight. I forgot. I left it home, but I laughed. I snapped a picture and sent it over to Andy. So, yeah. So.
Well,
My-
so the only reason I said that, Andy, is of course, I'm happy we have Pumpkin Fest, of course. But when we publicize it that heavily, I mean, aren't the ramifications of us dealing with traffic and people going to be higher than normal?
I've only seen one of these so far.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
know-
good problem to have.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, why
your
not?
catch 22, but it is
as bad
bad.
as Woodstock, you know.
I don't know.
I mean, the reality is this is worldwidely known now too. So it's not, it's, I mean, people come in from all over the place. So it's always going to be busy.
And we're working with the
Never know.
organizers to
Yeah.
try and make sure that they're providing adequate parking locations and shuttling
Some
services.
shuttling, busing.
Last year, there were some
yes.
challenges, I believe,
Yeah.
that weekend last year. So we're trying to make sure that there's an emphasis on providing it and advertising. And so I think they're doing a lot with their phone app that they're building out so that they're trying to
Okay.
give people more notice. And they have a couple of folks serving as a communication staff, if you will, or volunteers with them. So so far, I mean, they're doing good to try and make sure people know that there are other places to park. We've met with some of the leaders and first responders, with our fire, Newcastle, sheriff, police, ambulance, and talked about traffic routes and some of the things we saw last year. Again, we don't want to see replicated with emergency vehicles weren't going to get down some of our streets
Right.
if they needed to. So we talked about trying to make sure that's a little more orderly, and so we're doing what we can with the traffic, at least.
So you're gonna race one of the pumpkins?
Not that I know of.
There's room. They're looking for volunteers.
Come in. Come, you can do it this
Yep.
year.
Well, that's pretty exciting though. Yeah, that.
With Jaja.
Yeah.
All right. Is that all? Any comments, citizens comments for this evening? We can move away. That's all you had on your list? We have the separate. Patty, come on up. Mike's yours. You know the drill. Yeah, you know who you are, but you gotta let the folks at home know.
Yeah, I'm Patty Whitten. And I'm here because two of the cemetery volunteers, I understand, have approached the town about restoring safe access to the Alden Chapman Cemetery, which got altered with the recent road work. So I
This is the
thought
one on Egypt Road.
on Egypt
Yeah,
Road, yeah. I just thought I'd make myself available if there were questions. I do have a few pictures if that's helpful. However, whatever you want to do with that.
Yeah, I think I talked to one of the volunteers today, and Andy and I talked, and we're finishing out the final phases of that shoulder work. And then I don't know where we're at. We just want to kind of get that, make sure that's all done first. And then
Is there something more going to happen with the shoulders? Because right now we have a significant drop off at a location that's about this far from the stone wall.
Yeah, where it comes down. Yeah,
Which is a
Yeah.
great ankle turning spot.
yeah.
And we have no parking left. We used to be able to pull two vehicles off the pavement. Looks to me like the root issue now is the pavement drifted toward the cemetery when
Yeah,
it went down this
road
time.
shifted
The
over.
road shifted a little
Yeah.
bit. That's obviously not going to change.
Yeah.
So next neighbor to the north is the volunteer who mows cemetery.
Yeah.
And when we saw what was going on with the pavement before the shoulder went down, he cut some brush and created a little spot where we could pull off safely at the north end. It was just leaves and road sand and whatever soft, but at least we could get off the road. And then when the shoulders went in, that was obliterated. So now we have nothing for safe parking. And I'm even almost more concerned about safe walking because where the shoulder ends and the stone wall ends, you have just enough room to kind of get your foot in there and turn your ankle.
Yeah.
And there is no way right now that the volunteer mower can get his mower into the cemetery.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He had several ideas that they sound good to me, but that's not my call in terms of he could bevel that shoulder down a little bit, so we'd eliminate the ankle turning hazard. And then if the town was willing to provide a load of gravel, he's willing to spread it to create that parking place at the end, so we could at least be within a reasonable distance and be able to carry equipment and tools and things in to work in there.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha, right, okay. And have you, in your capacity as road commissioner, have you been out, you've been in that section during there, so, okay. Yeah. so-
I had mentioned to Patty last week or week before that once they get done with the shoulder work, that her and I could get together and come up with what we needed to solve the issue, but
Okay,
they
yeah,
had just finished shoulder work last week, so and I
yeah,
I've been out to look at it,
An
but
on-site
we have
visit or
not
something.
connected on, in the field out there together to say what needs to be done. I've heard bits and pieces from other people since it's been done that what we are probably going to end up doing, but you and I just haven't had a chance to
No.
connect yet.
yeah,
and
and I knew the volunteers had come, and so I thought I need to make myself available.
thank you, yeah, because I was relayed, I know I
Yeah.
relayed what was
Just to-
brought to me,
but
and
if-
so,
If
so we
it's
just need to
helpful.
get you guys connected then to stop out and take a look, so, yeah.
Before and each
Yeah.
is after, see what we're up against there.
I'm surprised it took you this long.
Yeah.
To come in here,
Yeah.
because I said it from day one, so.
I was waiting. my
Well,
turn.
yeah, it was brought up early on in the process and it was kind of hard to envision it until it was all done.
Yeah.
And we could see what we had
Yeah.
to work with. So,
Well,
yeah.
and like I said, when just the pavement was there, Bob thought we could get away with the space that he created at the
Mhm.
end,
Gotcha, yeah.
which we could.
Good,
Not
but
ideal,
now,
but now it's so much worse than
Mhm.
it was once the shoulders went down. So if we can just, and I didn't want to say, yeah, you can modify that shoulder, then that's not my place. But if we could bevel the shoulder and drop a load of gravel, we could at least be able to get one vehicle back in there.
So we just need to get you and Patty together to meet on site is really what needs to happen. And
Yeah.
yeah, just get it's your capacity as road commissioner and take a
Yeah.
look and
it's on my list to do.
and then in
Yeah.
the meantime, Patty, if
Yep.
you guys can't, just.
I'll take priorities, yeah.
Well, that's what I've been doing is parking over at Lakehurst. And I really appreciate knowing that that's okay to do. My bigger concern is somebody who's coming from who knows where
Right.
to visit ancestors.
Mhm.
They don't know the road. They don't know that curve that's up there. They don't know that people are towing trailers down to the campground with a lot longer slow down stop length. And it just, safety is always my number one concern. And I just want to make sure that that's addressed. But like I said, I was going to wait until Andy and I had a chance to get together. And then when I had two volunteers get a hold of me and say, I've talked to this person, I've talked to that person, I better just go make myself available.
they got ahead of you. Yeah.
So if there are any questions, I'm
Yeah.
happy to,
Oh, thank you, Patty. Yeah.
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 and
We've
still,
all been out, I've seen that, Josh.
Yeah.
You can't miss it coming out of your driveway there. So it's good.
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
so-
part of the area where the parking was now a 14-inch drop.
Yeah.
So
You want one of these back?
I don't need them back. They were
Circulate 'em.
for you guys. So whatever you want to do. And also just to reiterate, the invitation is still open for the tour. So however your schedules work out, we'll
Yes, we've
to do that.
I'm looking forward to it.
kind of,
Yeah.
we've kind of done a small, short survey and we're looking, I mean, it's been a busy summer. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think fall, looking at trying to get some dates from the folks, but that's looking
Yeah.
like a better time. So,
Yeah, sometime in September before Pumpkin Fest. or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, something right around there. So we'll try to
Yeah.
figure that out. What we can get. Yeah. Thank you.
Just start an email and
Yep.
let me know. We'll make sure it happens.
Patty.
Okay.
All right. That's great. I think
Thank
we all
you.
like to do that. So thank you.
Okay.
All right. Go. Okay. Anybody else? Dick, you're here for a reason. Come on up. You know the drill.
I'm Dick McLean, Damariscotta resident. I have a question and a quick discussion for you folks around the Regional Planning Commission. I know it's on the agenda for in a short while. I'd just like to wait for that if I may,
It's up now.
and then, okay, and then step back up.
Yeah, I think it's coming up.
I wouldn't
Just
move.
right there. just-
Stay right there. Yeah.
Don't move.
Yeah, where that's
Sit here.
next in when we get into the town manager report. So, yeah. Yep, so,
I don't have anything
Andy.
substantial. I was sharing with you the minutes that were provided. They had a meeting today at 6. So if we hustle you can make it back virtually for the meeting. But I was just sharing the minutes. So I mean, I think you were at the last meeting. If there's anything you want to share now that if
Well,
being
yeah,
here.
it's just knowing it was on the agenda, not sure what you were going to discuss. I've question and observation about your representation in the Regional Planning Commission.
Mhm.
The Planning Commission has from each town 2 voting representatives and an alternate. And I guess first question is, who do you think that is versus who do we think that is? And just want to make sure that we get it all caught up and up to date. I think that your 2 voting representatives are myself and Lou Abatoni, and that the alternate is Matt Lutkus. And I have no problem with that. It just dawned on me that with time going by, you might think that when a person was a selectman and it was a rep and is no longer a selectman, that person is no longer a rep. That's not the case. Those 2 are not necessarily linked.
Right, yeah.
The representative does not have, it just needs to be somebody that you feel can speak on behalf of the town and bring anything back to you that need brought back. So I'm not looking for you to, well, who do you think it is? Is my,
Well, does Lou attend the meetings?
Hmm?
Does Lou attend all the meetings?
No.
I mean, it's
Then he
appointed
may
by
not
the
be
board.
aware.
so-
It's appointed by the board, yeah.
Yeah, and
Someone that's going to attend.
yeah,
all
and
the
again,
meetings?
I'm not here to question
Yeah.
anybody's
No,
appropriateness. I just want to say that I want to make sure it hasn't fallen out of
I have the
date.
interest,
Yeah,
sure.
well, it probably has. Thank you. Dick.
Yeah,
You know,
so,
it's something we-
so just,
Yeah, yeah.
and it doesn't have to be anything now. I just ask if that's something you folks would chat about and consider. I would like to continue. I've been doing this for you for
Long time.
Yeah.
12 years. long
Yeah, no,
time.
you've been doing it a while. Dick, so
Yeah, helped form the commission. For the time being, at least, I'd like to continue to be such. And in fact, thank you for allowing me to do so. But inviting you just to update that and take a look at it. That's
Do we, I can ask right now, do we have any board members right now that are interested in representing the town on that?
I might be, but I'd like to look into.
Look into it, okay.
Yeah, I
So,
will very
in the
briefly.
meet-
It
It's all-
involves,
it's-
it involves attendance at a meeting once every 2 months. Okay, that the full board meets once every 2 months. The executive committee meets once every 2 months in the alternate. All right, so there's something happening every month, but unless you rise to the executive committee, it would be once every 2 months. Very rare for us to be looking for any sort of a subcommittee that would start to draw other time. So the time commitment is not extensive.
But there are things that you'll need to be doing to help.
Yeah, right. Mostly around opinions or updates. In other words, is something going on in town that the planning commission might want to know about? Are we doing something? Although the staff does a very good job, I believe, of making sure through the town manager that you folks know what's going on. But so again, it's not oppressive as far as the time commitment is concerned. And any other questions, if you want to.
Is Matt still involved at all? Does he come?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
So we have, right now, we have one definite in front of us. So if we haven't
Yeah.
appointed anybody, I would entertain, I'll make a motion, because it pleases the board to appoint Dick McLean as the representative for Damariscotta for the LCRPC.
Yes.
Second for that?
Yeah.
Second, Andrea seconds? Okay.
I also think that
any-
Dan might be interested in doing it.
Well, I think
think-
there were 2 things that came up last month. There was
Okay.
the budget committee for the county as well.
Yeah.
And so it took me a minute to twice to read the minutes, and those are 2
There's a
separate
couple
things.
things, yeah.
So
Yeah. So for right now,
we had talked about the budget committee for the county as well. So
Okay.
for right now, at the very minimum, we'll
Yeah.
get.
You are
official-
represented.
So,
Maybe even tonight.
yeah, exactly.
So you have an interest.
Yeah, I'd like
But okay, hang on,
And
let's
I'd be
finish the
glad-
motion out here for Dick. So we can, if you're interested, we can go. So I'll call for a vote on the motion to appoint Dick McLean. Andrea seconded, sorry. Yep. All those in favor of the motion? Okay, so.
Thank you for
you're-
that.
You continue as a
I'm
rep.
Glad to have any discussion with you would like.
Oh, we need to
about it.
nominate Tom.
Okay.
Do you want to,
Any-
does Tom, is that something you want to
I'll do it. Yeah.
do? Okay. Yeah, so
Used to
I'll
be
make a
involved
motion to
in planning.
nominate Tom as our, the second representative for
yeah.
for Damariscotta for the
And just so
LCRPC.
Tom
Yep.
or anybody else knows regarding, for instance, this conflict tonight.
Yeah.
It startles people. We rotate our meeting nights. All right, so it's Wednesday this week. It'll be this month. It'll be Thursday next month, and so on, for the very reason that no town
Right.
gets their selectmen or their important people
Sure, sure.
excluded from our meetings. So it means a little careful calendar management. But so, yeah, there's a meeting tonight, but that only comes around
Right.
a couple times a year that you'd have to make a decision on where you want to be. And again, that's one of the reasons for actually, three people
Having to do
involved
three,
to make
yeah.
sure you cover.
We can
it.
work
So-
on an alternate, but yeah.
Right.
So I did make
I'll
a
second.
motion.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Josh, seconds. All right, any discussion? All those in favor? All right.
Do we
You want to
need
vote
to
for yourself?
Well, I thought
It's just-
Pain.
We need to
So,
replace Matt.
So, as an alternate, but we don't have anybody to volunteer for it right now. So we've got two
Well,
in
just
there.
think
And
about
if
it,
we,
just-
if we have an
and
alternate,
again,
somebody comes up. we
It
can-
doesn't
we
have
can
to be a
address that.
planning board member or a selectman.
Can be
It's just
anybody.
somebody that you feel kind of has a thumb on the pulse of what's going on in town, or and can just speak on your behalf, or at least listen on your behalf as we're going along. So-
Thank you, Dick. Now, as our appointed representative, you have 7 minutes to get on.
I'm gonna go home and Zoom.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank
Thank you,
very
Dick.
much.
Yeah, thank you
Appreciate
for your
that.
work. I appreciate you doing that. So, yeah.
And then,
Yep.
Nick, does someone from that committee report back to us monthly?
No, I don't. I do a very bad job of that.
Yep.
And shame on me, and partially because we're always very involved in working with the town,
Yeah.
that most of what I would come and tell you is already going
It's
on in the
gonna
town
go through.
manager's office.
Goes through
I
Andy
have
anyway.
periodically at wee hours of the morning said, I really should go over there. All right, yeah. So I'll tell you what I'll do. At your next meeting,
Yeah.
I'll kind of let you know if there was anything that happened.
Yeah, as
Okay?
long as it goes through channels and you've got the town manager,
Yeah,
you-
I've
so we're
always
fine
felt
with
that it
Yeah.
was well covered, but okay. And anytime in between question or anything else, of course you call me. So thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's one of those little things you.
Like a license.
You want to sign that? Yeah. You don't have to whisper. We're all on, it's all being recorded here, so. All right, Andy, where are we? Got the capital projects?
Yep, shoulder work finished, has been laid on both roads at this point. Working with the engineer to go through all of the remaining pay requisitions for both projects, the Bristol / Egypt Road, or Belvedere / Egypt Road, as well as Miles Street. So we're just trying to tidy those up, and some questions that we need to work through. Andrew was away last week, or at least for part of the week, so he probably won't be able to get back to it with detail with me until the end of next week. So in the meantime, I'll chip away at it and make sure I flag the things that stick out to me. There were a couple of things that I had just pointed out to him with the shoulder work that we need to look at. Otherwise,
All right.
it's there. We did have someone, it appears, drive through the shoulder material as it was laid, or right shortly after it was laid, same day. And it
Guy?
person, no,
No,
not
they
yet. But our police department did put some field cams out there to see if it was something that they could see on the sections that hadn't been put out at that point. So
Yeah, that was,
nothing I'm aware of at the moment, but it's something they are looking into, because there were places where it went right down the full 4 or 5 inches, right down to the base course of road. It wasn't an accident, didn't appear to be an accident. There's places where you can see someone had gone out there and looked like there's 2 set of tires that are just trying to spin.
numerous
so it's
places, the whole length of the road. Yeah.
Pretty discouraging after a-
Back Meadow all the way up through. That's very discouraging.
Mhm.
Yeah, so unfortunate. It's a big
And there aren't
project.
any
and
houses
so
around there?
It's time of day, it's hard to say.
Doesn't take long to do it either, so
No,
could've
you're
hear it gone.
driving
all
along
it
and,
is.
yeah, very frustrating. So, okay.
Parking lot project, did get an email earlier this week from our contact there, just asking the question if we're good to proceed with the engineers for finalizing and getting stuff ready for bid, and he said yes. Everything's gone through the committee at this point. We'll work with the district on formalizing the maintenance agreement in the meantime. But we'll move forward with that. We do have the outstanding issue. I provided the notes there from our engineer regarding what we had found in Taco Alley there. So one of the 4 buildings that we were looking at is not connected as suspected. The good news is the other 3 are. And so we just need to work through, we've already plugged an abandoned sewer pipe in the basement of what was capacity. But we still need to deal with those other 2 bullets, which I think we were thinking we would do as part of the project when all the equipment's in there. Maybe sooner, but things are flowing, and the district never did cap that old collector line at the
Right, the old line.
where the pump station where it goes in there. So as long as they don't do that without us knowing, then it'll continue to flow. But we will have to take care of that. That will have to be taken care of before we can get that underground storage system in. So those lines will have to be removed.
Yeah, that was a plan removing that. Do you recall the engineering, remove that other line? That was gonna come out, right? Oh,
Talking about it.
yeah, we didn't want an old line underneath it.
Either that or capping it, I think. fill it with
Capping it.
concrete.
Right.
Yeah, pumping it for the
Can't
fill or
collapse.
something.
So I think it's an
Yeah.
old clay line.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think that's the concern. If it was, it would eventually just.
Yeah, it'd be
fall
a void
apart, but if
there,
you
and
can
we
fill
need
it with
to-
concrete, then.
Yeah. At least remove it if, yeah. I suspect when they start digging in there, they're gonna have to do it at some point, but. All right.
I'm still looking for grant funds for Church and Hodgson Street. I keep including Hodgson Street because, from the top of the hill, the cemetery, where we're going to end our one this fall. Just makes sense to include it there, as I've said before. So still looking for grant funds for that. Working on an application right now due end of September. So hoping that has something that will be useful for us and we could get.
The work's gonna begin on the other end of Hodgson.
Hodgson and Pleasant up just above Blue Haven second driveway. Yep.
Yeah.
There's a drainage project there.
When does that start?
Needs to be completed by the end of October.
Oh.
Don't have an estimated start date exactly at this moment.
And what did we say? It's an 6 week?
For that project to be
Yeah.
completed, like 7 to 10 days probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, unless there's some really big unknown under there, but it's already pipe running under the road and they're gonna basically replace it and lay things next to them and should go along as a small section. I think it was only 800 feet or something, so. I think the
Yeah,
contractor was thinking it'd
nice.
probably be about a week, so
And he hasn't given us a time yet.
not definitively, no, just after August at this point.
Okay.
And the contract is to do it by the end of October.
Do we
have
forfeit
an
some
end date, yeah.
funds if we don't have it done by the end of October?
I don't know that to be true. I think there's I don't know what the dates are, with those grants, there's typically a
Yeah.
time that you have to make a start and then final completion, but off the top of my head, I don't remember.
That's what the contract calls for, the end of October.
Yep.
So it is in keeping with the grant money.
At this moment, I have no reason to believe it's not, yeah. Because again, we work with the partners at CDBG, they're aware of the general contract terms, schedule. And so we're just going through the motions, just waiting.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Yeah.
Are there any other people that we should try to reach out to find more grant money for some of this?
If you're aware of any, yeah, I'm reaching out to folks as I know or seeing them and working
Right.
on them. I mean, we don't qualify for every one of them, obviously, and our project has a lot of features about it that are attractive, I think, for certain grant opportunities.
Mhm.
So it's just working through them. But if there's other ones you think you know of or people I should talk to, I've reached out to MCOG, I was talking with Senator King's staff last week. If there's others that we know have good leads on them.
There's probably
Let me
stuff
know.
hidden out there somewhere.
Oh, I'm
It's a matter of
sure.
finding
Yep.
it. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
be a full-time job, not only writing grants, but looking for them.
I mean,
It's true.
Yeah.
The culvert and stream crossings are big ones, but that one's been submitted. We don't know if we have it yet. But if I remove that from this grant application, whatever one I put in, then it's a sidewalk and drainage road project. And so you start to, fall off the list on some of these grants at that point. There's still some there for sidewalks and safe route stuff, but depending on our design and what their goals are, you may or may not be in good standing for those ones. So it just said, I know there's one right now, it's a federal one that I'm looking at. 20% cost share. So if we can stretch the rest of the bond money further afterwards, that'd be great. But I think right now it's looking like $1.2 million to $1.5 million probably is what collectively we need to pull together to get it completed.
That project, yeah.
Is that on our side or including the grant?
It's including our funds that we have available, but not assuming we get the grant.
Okay.
So that's why, yeah, trying to apply for grants. It's about $1.5 million or so gap,
Okay.
is my estimate. It's a little higher than the engineers, but I'd rather
Yeah.
go high.
We've seen that.
We've seen that before, yeah. Like realistic numbers, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Public Works has been
Yep.
working on Branch Road. I know Josh has been out there probably a couple times since they've been there. They were placing riprap, or Hugh was placing riprap today. Folks have stopped him and the crew and said things are looking pretty good. It's been really soupy. I don't know how that's the best to describe it, but the side they did first, actually, it does look like it's dried out a little bit now. They've done the other lane this past week, and so that one's still kind of soft. But yeah, it has a chance to dry out, because again, that water just sat right there at the road's edge for so long, and it is just clay and
Saturated.
crap. So we put three culvert crossings in under driveways, or under driveways basically. They're addressing it with riprap today on some of those. So
Okay.
we'll sweep the road off once we get out of there with the equipment and
Nice.
be on our way and keep an eye on it.
You've been out by, and
Yeah,
yeah.
getting there. It's
Yeah.
it's the terrain and the material is pretty,
Mhm.
as Andy said, it's pretty wet.
Yeah, I bet.
You might, if you cheat that shoulder coming up the hill, you might get sucked in. Yeah, but there's not
Stay
much.
on the pavement.
The exception of literally digging it all out and bringing all new material in. I mean, I think once you get the water placed to actually drain where it wants to, it is
It'll dry out.
drying out.
Take a while, it'll dry out.
You did say
Okay.
there is some riprap underneath some sections going up the hill there where it's been put in years ago. So it wasn't, if you get down a few inches, it is a little firmer. But it's taking a little bit, but I think it's coming along pretty well.
Nice.
For something we don't do all the time. So got the excavator until Monday.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mentioned the Pumpkin Fest already.
Yep.
Traffic and parking
ordinances.
ordinance, just putting that up there. I know if there's things in there, it's been a while since it's been updated. Gone through a winter now, in the second summer. Before Payson leaves, Jason and I talked about trying to pull her in on, she's observed this summer being down there on
good
foot.
idea.
And see if there's things in the summertime she's thinking of. One thing we know off the bat that we'd like to try and do is identify a place for oversized vehicle. There's no place for a flatbed, tow truck or a box truck or anything like that to legally park in that parking lot. And so, typically what they'll do is, Payson's been good about just trying to get ahead of people and say, hey, I'll help you find something temporarily. The charter bus that comes in to bring people for the boat trips, we work with them to put some material in at the end of the guardrail, coming off of Water Street side of the parking lot.
Yeah.
And there's two spots that are kind of parallel to the river. So either that or maybe on the end of the boat parking. So I think that's a good one to try and fit in and create that in the ordinance. We don't have it in there. Come wintertime for cleanup, I think there are some things that we might want to think about to try and make that easier for the cleanup purposes. But if there's items or things you all have that you want us to think about and draft, for consideration, just let me know. We'll try and do that before
You
the.
just get any tickets? I see her walking around. Yeah. How does she do it? Because I don't see it with a stick or with chalk or anything.
They don't do it with chalk anymore. They used to, but they can't
It's illegal.
touch the vehicles. Yeah.
So how do they do it?
Most of all, the
Observation.
tickets you can they place the ticket in under the
No.
wiper.
How do they know how long they've been there?
They can determine just based on their watch,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But
Alright.
we actually, I don't admittedly write that many tickets for time anymore because we have no way to enforce it because the courts
Okay.
have ruled that chalking tires is illegal.
All right.
And so, most places that are doing it now with time restrictions are using meters.
Yeah.
And
Right,
so
yeah.
aside from buying some sort of camera system that someone then sits and watches throughout the day to say, oh yeah, I can see they haven't moved.
What I've observed, a couple of things with Pace in particular, that she's down there all the time. She is everywhere. But they've also been in the last couple of years, especially this year, they've been a lot more proactive in getting people in the right spot before there's an infraction, right? So if they see somebody doing something like, hey, you don't want to park there, let's get you over
Yeah.
here, this and that. So there's been a lot of that interaction going on, getting people in the right places. So I think the majority of, Andy says the time is hard, but a lot of the tickets are based on like people not parking and taking up 2 spots, or parking in the boaters parking or in the handicap spot, and
That's most of them.
things like that. Yeah, a lot of that. That's obviously
Okay.
very easy to do, but
Mhm.
but they've been the presence downtown has been really good this year. It goes back and forth over the years, but yeah, she's all over the place and getting ahead of people.
Oh, yeah,
So
she's there.
I give her credit.
I remember, back in, was it July when it was really hot there for a bit? I remember there was a day she walked 14 miles, and I don't think that was the only day. It happened to be the first time I heard her say it, and I was, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. Out and about.
Constantly moving.
Every time I turn, I see she's in my field of vision somewhere. Like, how did she get over there? So yeah, it was
So-
great. So.
So the ordinance is on the work plan
Mhm.
to review it. So is there an opportunity for public input on this?
Should,
When does that happen?
I mean, certainly the reading at the select board meeting.
Because I mean, there's a lot of interest in parking.
Mhm.
I suspect there might be some feedback from the community.
I imagine there might be, yeah. I mean, I was
This
gonna
draft-
start with our observations and the challenges we face in trying to enforce the current ordinance.
Okay.
The ordinance isn't gonna create more parking, really. I mean, we're limited physically with
Sure.
what we own and can do. But, I wasn't thinking of doing a town committee, if you will, to start the draft process. I mean, my approach was gonna be to try and clean up the issues we're dealing with constantly, every day, if you will, that
Okay.
make it hard to enforce what's written. And then bring it to the board, and see, and then that's a chance for the public to
Comment at
come
that
to this
point,
meeting,
yeah.
and
Okay.
if we find there's major challenges or issues with it, then we can always step back and do something different, but that was kind of the thought I had on that particular ordinance.
So it'd be on the day that the board approves it, that'd be the opportunity for their input.
Well, there's I think
announce-
the way I've put it in, that's a very tentative schedule, but just kind of give the board an idea at board meetings, kind of when we might bring up some of the items that are on your list, but I think for all the ordinances, I think I have them on there as 1, 2, and maybe even a third meeting for most of them.
Oh, okay. So,
First draft, second draft,
Yeah,
and
it goes
I don't
through-
assume it to pass the first time, but.
Okay.
If it does, they do. That particular ordinance is also one that the select board has the ability by statute to approve.
Okay.
As opposed to some of the other ones, which the statute requires go to town meeting vote.
Okay.
Or be voted on by our legislative body. So that one is a little bit unique compared to some of the others.
There'll be times where we'll have a special town meeting for an ordinance change or something like that.
Yeah, no, I've seen those,
you
yeah.
do yeah. Yeah, so, but there's always the drafts come through for public input. You have to have a, special meeting for it first, and yeah.
And those land use type ordinances, they do go through the planning board, so they have their public process, and then there's the select board that talk about it to create the warrant article. So there's usually a public hearing, and then you create your warrant if everything's satisfied, and then so there's probably a minimum of 6 public opportunities going through those other ones, going through 2 boards. So if there's a different idea or different ways that we should be engaging the public, I know there was a desire to try and, bring there was a committee on ordinance review, land use ordinance review committee, I think it was something like that. The idea of that we need more public participation. I just encourage those that are part of the current boards to bring 2 or 3 people with you. If there's concerns or questions about it, is creating another in the interest of trying to move things forward is another checkpoint for review necessary. Do we need to do a better job bringing people into the current ones?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I.
so yeah, so I'm thinking of it at 2 levels. One is we only have so much parking today, and that's the parking ordinance to deal with how to manage that.
Right.
And then there's the larger question of
How do you get more parking?
how to get more parking. And
Yeah.
that's about,
Right.
That's $1 million question, Dan.
I think one of the bigger frustrations you might see now is, what is currently in place for hours restrictions, effectively, we don't have a way to really enforce it right now.
Yeah.
And so, out of
But
fairness
we've
to,
talked about putting in meters.
out of the fairness to those that have said we need to have the ability for turnover so people can come into our business. If it's the same cars parked there all day, then you're not getting that, right? And so we need to take that into consideration, however it looks, but that's one of the challenges that we have now. People are, I think, generally pretty good about it, but
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
we keep the signs up. It's in the ordinance. We can't, that's what we have to do is,
The, the winter parking is always one that gets every year. It's a
Mhm.
kind of a new, getting the information out there for the winter parking, overnight parking and storm parking and whatnot. There's always, that first few storms, there's always a
Mhm.
very steep learning curve sometimes for folks that live there a while and
Yeah.
a lot of times for folks that just moved in town that aren't aware. And
Right.
and that's one that to look at it better, and part of it is, we don't know that you have the residents that move into the new apartments and there's no way for the
Mhm.
town to know that
I think that's police department, my understanding going to last winter anyways, is they do reach out to property owners. And provide them with the information again. Ask if your tenants
Yeah.
want to be on our list, let us know. We do have a list and they try and keep track of people's cars based on that. And so if they do see one, they know they can call someone.
Yeah, they do the best they can, but if
Right.
you don't have an
But
involvement.
if you don't
That's sort of
provide
the-
the information, then
Yeah.
there's not much they can do. That once in a while, they'll sit down there with the lights and sirens on and early in the morning, and that sometimes gets people, oh,
Wake
okay.
up and go, yeah, oh, it's 7. Yeah. No, so it's.
Tax bills are going out this week. There was a bit of a delay in getting them just based on the issues we saw in some of them, because we sent them off. They were committed. We sent them off to the printer. We get the proofs. So let's go through and look at some of these, especially the stabilized ones, to make sure it looks right. There were some things that we had questions about, so we had to ask the assessor's agent through a couple back and forth emails over a few days. They did say, yeah, it looks like there's something's happened with a couple, of these and the values. And so the taxes have been committed. We're going to send out what we have, but they're going to have to work to do either abatement supplements or correct what's been committed in some cases. It's not a lot, but there were some that we definitely noticed.
Okay, well, good to catch them
So
before they go out. All right, thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
You all set on your
Mhm.
updates? Cool. So we'll move on here. Official action items, we've already done Schooner Landing, obviously, but we did have, everybody saw there was an addition. I mentioned first part of the meeting here. We probably may have a chance to read it, but do you want to give everybody a quick overview on it, Andy?
yeah, I told John we'd be all, it's pretty straightforward. I was all set. He had called me a couple weeks ago, said the boiler's leaked or failed. There was water in the floor in there. And
Yeah.
so Midcoast was good about getting back to us quick with a quote, and even better, they have an opening in their schedule early September. So they'd
even
be able
better.
to get that installed.
good.
The quote came in at just about $8,400
Okay.
to replace the boiler. It wasn't, timing isn't now that we were planning, John was planning on doing it, and I think his replacement isn't what he was hoping to replace it with, but we don't, it has to be done now.
How old is that the original boiler?
96.
That's the original boiler then, and that they've done well for a
Hmm.
commercial
Hmm.
place. So, okay.
And it's, it's
Yeah.
got the radiant floor heat through through the
Yeah.
whole footprint, or just the bays, whole footprint. And so it is, at first I
done
was
well.
thinking it's not, it's kind of not pushing a ton of water, but then I realized it's got the radiant floor heat. I'm like, it is actually pushing water.
Yeah, for that whole building. So that's done remarkably well.
So it works a lot in the winter.
That it does.
I'll make a motion to appropriate up to $10,000 from the fire department building reserve for the purpose of replacing the boiler system. Second, Andrea seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, get everybody.
I'm voting.
All right, you're gonna
Municipal
vote.
building.
Yep, all right, motion carries. So that's good. And they can get it done in September. That's even better because
They can. I think the only, thing that, we just acknowledge now that we can't do and why it's important to get it done is there's things, I think the biggest one is, should there be an issue where someone needs to go through decontamination following an incident, they don't have hot water readily available. So it's, got to get it going. So
Yes.
yeah, well, it's two things. It's
And it
scheduling and parts
seems-
availability. So
And
if
it
that's,
seems like that's a good price.
I think it's all included. I didn't see whether and will include, plus this, So
Good.
I don't know, because I tried to try.
straightforward.
They do, and they already do all the maintenance and everything out there anyway.
yeah, perfect,
it's
perfect.
a nice big room to work in. So
Good. You get it done, move on. All right, so only thing left on our agenda would just be to touch base on the work plan going forward. And Andy, we've gone through and updated some stuff here, look at some dates tentatively for
Yeah, it's just there's some
addressing
kinda
certain items.
benchmarks or things to aim for and, you know, certainly a document that'll flex and shift as priorities or issues come up, but just to give you a chance to kind of see, or I was thinking where we could bring it up if you want to do things sooner or push things off, let me know, but just kind of gives you a chance to see what will be coming up when.
Well, I chatted with Andy earlier, and one thing that I think is a nice thing we started getting used to is visiting this work plan a little more often than we have historically. And it in the past, we've checked it over, we've gone over it, updated it, and then we kind of go through the year and don't go back and forth and reference it. But it'd be nice to to visit, update it and visit it often, just to see where the status is on these projects and whatnot. So thank you.
Doing it monthly, no?
Anybody have any?
It's much better.
What? Yeah, I like this approach. So if there's any, this is an ongoing. So it's a fluid document. So if there's anything on here, it doesn't have to be tonight, but it doesn't have to wait till the next meeting either. So if there's things on there that we see that, might want to change or move things, priority wise and whatnot, just make sure we communicate with Andy on that and go from there. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I almost feel silly asking, but what is LCWF non-compliance?
Oh, you got an acronym down there, don't you? You have the cheat sheet, Andy?
That's the Land Conservation Water Fund. Back in the 80s, there were 3 grants the town received for recreation and infrastructure. It was the ball field at the Y along with the lights. Those were 2 separate grants. And then there was a playground that went in as well up there. Early 2000s, I think it was, the town voted to I assume gift the land. I can't remember if it was gifted or sold or whatever.
I think it was sold for like $1.
Yeah.
Maybe.
To
Something
the
I didn't approve of.
it was sold to the Y. So it was a town rec center before, right? And it was sold to the Y. It included that all those recreation facilities that were given, the funds were given to for the town to retain. So it wasn't realized at the time that we needed to hold the ownership of that property in perpetuity. Matt and Bob, the former planner, and Matt had worked with the representative from the state program to explain as much best they could to say, well, it's still there, the ball field's still there. That playground came down, but there's one on that side of the building. And it, they always came back to, well, you don't own it anymore. And we're one of about 30 communities, I believe, is what last I knew in the state, that have had similar issues and challenges with non-compliance. I think he said it was close to between 20 to 30% basically of recipients over the life of the program that are non-compliant in the state. And he found similar numbers across the country in other states. So we're not alone in it, but we do have to fix it, or we will remain ineligible for that funding source until we're compliant.
So what do we have to do?
We need to replace the recreation facility. And so it's something that, and it comes with a whole bunch of caveats, it has to be land that's not already publicly owned. It has to be infrastructure that's not already there. Someone couldn't say, well, I have a playground in 2 acres, I'll gift it to you. It does not, we got to create new recreational facility, new public space. And so we've got to identify.
I noticed that there's nobody assigned to it. You know how you have staff assigned, that one's just blank. And there's nothing on the work plan for the whole year. So it's just
flexible, constantly.
I was hoping it
fluid
was just a
document.
mistake.
No, I mean, just going through and assigning staff. I mean, honestly, a lot of it's me.
Okay.
That's on my list. Still working with Mike to, kind of work with him on his, we don't budget time as a limiting factor. We budget dollars typically, right? And so trying to do better with the staff to really budget time. So we all know what's available. If our plan is 20 hours a week on average, we know, okay, this X number of hours is going to be, once a week or once a month rather, is going to be getting ready for the planning board. And that's.
So the fact that we're not compliant, what are the negative consequences of this? Do we have to pay back some money?
Right now, our negative consequences, we're not eligible for land conservation water funds.
Okay.
Right now, it's limited to just that program.
There's a nice spot on corner of Church and Elm there. There's a nice green Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I think it's big enough.
You know, one of the,
what do you want to
Swing
put?
set right there.
You want to put a park there? Is that what you're suggesting?
You see, that's. what-
Just, hey, I'm gonna put your name on that report.
You know, make an offer, I guess.
And to his point, it's a great question because you're asking about, you know, what happens and I think sometimes depending on the consequences, it changes the severity or the priority of that's what you see things change in the work plan. Because right now we're kind of in limbo where we're simply not eligible.
Mhm.
You know, if it was within a year, we had to pay back the full funds, then it would be a different like, oh, okay.
I asked if we could.
Oh, did you?
I did, because I think collectively between the three, it was like $30,000 in the eighties, and even accounting for inflation since the eighties, we're only talking, I think, $50,000 and just doing the appraisals. You have to do a yellow book appraisal, and one's
That's
not
right.
enough. You have to do 2 yellow book appraisals, and that's assuming the one property you choose is suitable and gonna value high enough. The recreational value has to be considered, so they would quantify the value, recreational value, however that is calculated,
They
of the
calculate that.
softball for the baseball field and the playground that existed then. And then you have to look at whatever you're proposing to put in. What's the recreational value of that? They calculate that. So by the time you get done with just the yellow book appraisals, you're going to be close to the award amount originally. And then you got to build something. And so I asked him, I said, can we just pay that
pay it
back?
back?
I mean, is that an option? An offer is an option though. And no, it's not. Okay. So we've
Worth asking, yeah.
Sounds like you're on top of it.
been working with, and this has been on
It's been quite a
Been a
while,
long time.
years.
Yeah.
probably even longer than that,
Yeah.
because
So Josh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of these, it's on the list, it's lingering, no one's down our neck saying, here's your fine.
looked at
and so
different
we're just
avenues.
Trying to work.
But
with-
you're just not eligible.
we
to
just haven't
apply
figured it out
for grants from this program again going forward.
Right,
when he figures it out.
so been working with some community partners, organizations in town to talk about it that are aware of it and trying to find solutions for it, but you know, it's just kind of keeps coming up periodically, but.
We'll trip into something. Thank you, Andy.
Maybe, you never know.
And I'll go, yeah, we're all caught up here, so I can, we have any other agenda items or discussion items, we can start with Tom and go back
Okay.
through, so.
3 quick things. One, I noticed that Wisconsin had Johnson Controls come in and do an energy audit. I think probably complimentary. And Johnson Controls have been around since, I don't know, the forties or something. They're really reputable
Yeah.
firm, but they proposed that they might be able to save Wisconsin $120,000 a year. So I'm wondering if we might want to talk to Johnson if they're gonna if they do a complimentary, scan or whatever suggestion program, what's the lose?
I can talk to Dennis and see what they looked at. That seems. That's great for Wisconsin. I'm curious. They also have a wastewater treatment plant. I'm wondering if some of that
Yeah.
is.
They did, they
What's a
checked, they
Johnson
did
Controls?
municipal,
Mhm.
just a municipal audit.
Well, I know they included the school, so that's
Okay.
part of it.
Oh.
Okay.
It's a company,
What do they do?
came in
I
and
look at the
energy
buildings.
audit.
On what?
Basically, what they
The
do is the
municipal-
controls
municipal
turn the
buildings.
heat on and
Municipal.
off and, based
Oh,
on.
the
timing.
buildings
It's
themselves.
Yeah, look at our bills. We got 3. This one fire station and very small public works garage. So I just off the top of my head, I'm thinking,
Right,
I
right.
think it's definitely, I mean, we've heard about upgrading lights to LEDs is something we can chip away at in places and the heating system here was just replaced. We probably could look at trying to zone it better for more efficient, but I'll talk with Dennis and see how that experience went and then
Yeah.
see how they funded it and what, if it cost anything or not.
Sure. So I noticed that the state was out doing shoulder work on the Bristol Road, which I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and
Oh,
they didn't hear me, so I don't know, they just did it on their own. But that was impressive. They were out there, it says shoulder repair truck, state. And right at the intersection of school and Bristol.
nice.
They got a long way to go, but at least they're out there.
Yeah.
We had this aquaculture meeting at the Lincoln, theater. It was packed, so there's always a lot of interest in aquaculture.
Mhm.
And it was very informative and went very well. And I happened to get a follow-up call from a guy named Jeff Auger, who's been sitting here periodically, who's the head of Atlantic Aqua Farms. I had a nice half an hour call with him today. And as a result of that call, he's agreed to have his guys stop racing through Houston Cove. So we're getting some results from interaction.
Everybody's working together.
Yeah,
Good,
exactly.
good. That's
yeah. So it was
awesome.
very friendly
Awesome.
call. He wants to be in
Yeah.
the meeting in the fall, whatever.
Perfect.
And Andy recommended I contact Coastal Rivers for space to have the meeting, which I hadn't thought of, so that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Dan?
I just, one thing, I don't know if anyone else has been following what's happening with reappraisals and the experience Brunswick is having and Bath's having. Apparently they get an enormous pushback. Have you read about this?
You always get pushback on
Oh.
revals.
But it has to do with it, how much the housing has increased over the last couple of years, and they had put theirs off for too long, and so there's just like enormous increases in this.
Mhm.
And so I know that we're thinking about an appraisal process coming up in the next couple of years. I know in the budget process, I know there's money in it.
We've been
So-
putting money aside. I think if that's something we got, not on the list exclusively, but I think something that we got to probably look to sign a contract for before the calendar year's over. Cause from what I'm understanding, some of these firms are 2 years out.
Yeah, but there's something to be learned from Brunswick and Bath's experience in terms of just trying to think through it in terms of, because we've had significant residential property appreciation in this town as well. So
Well, we just bumped the values 19%. So
Yeah.
Would have been 38 if we wanted to get to the,
where we're supposed to be.
right.
yeah. And the other difference is that the residential properties increased a lot more than the commercial properties did. So that sort of pushes more the
Yeah,
tax.
what we did here was just a flat on everything.
Just across the board.
Yeah.
On that, yeah.
When did we do that?
Yeah.
We did that, what, 2 meetings ago or a meeting ago?
We were too far behind.
You were out, so.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, the state says, here's your goalpost and you stay with, above 70, but below 110. And if we didn't make any move, I think the assessor's agent said we'd be, I think, below 70.
Yes.
Or
Yeah, so we just move. Yeah.
below. So,
Yeah.
they had the data from the state valuation report to, show that there was, he explained it right, that there was, the sales ratio for waterfront and basically rural properties were showing up.
Showing the
equal.
same.
And so it meant that at least between those two categories, you could do it. It's when those are off by a lot. It's like, now how do I do this? You had to have, kind of a method to it. And so it kind of gave them the opportunity to have us do a gentle increase, but do this increase, this step now, and at least get us above that, stay above 70, get the homestead back to the full 25,000 that property owners are afforded when your valuations are above. It's 90, I believe.
Yeah, and as long as we do it and keep up on it, then it shouldn't be as
Right,
bad
won't be as
when we
dramatic.
do a
Huge
revow.
gap.
Yeah, no, Brunswick hadn't done in like 12 years or something.
Right.
And so they,
But we had known last year that we needed to do it.
Couple years.
We've known
Yeah,
for,
known for a while.
known for a
Yeah, it's
while, so that's why we've been setting money.
It's a lot. It's expensive.
So what exactly did we do?
When you committed taxes, the assessor's agent recommended that you raise the valuation of properties.
Correct.
And it ended up being about 19%.
Across the
Okay.
board.
And so your
Okay, so
taxable
that's
amount.
what we did is we
Yeah.
raised it 19% across the board
Yes,
average, yeah.
indiscriminately. Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then at some point, we do have to.
This would buy us,
Individual.
this bought us a little bit of time.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
If as long as things, the sell and the analysis is the same, then we could always do another one before then.
Right. What it's not is it's not like a neighborhood review where you might find certain neighborhoods, have sales that are somewhat, 100% over assessed value, and certain neighborhoods might only be 20% over assessed value. And so, that's, some way what a full reval might get you is a more constant, a more in-depth view and analysis
Yeah.
of kind of by neighborhood, even waterfront versus non-commercial versus, commercial and down historic district versus commercial and northern part of Main Street. And so it gets a lot more involved. And I think, numbers that are floating around are between 100 and 180 per developed parcel, by the sounds of it. So it's a wide range, but depends on what level of analysis you want your reval process to go through. Are you just looking at what's on the ground? Not necessarily from the car, but maybe you walk around the property and, yep, confirm this is what we have on the record, good to go.
Do we ever even go in the property to look?
Well, you can, if you want to spend the money, you can go in the property, was what I was gonna say. You can take that approach if you want. How many bathrooms, how many bedrooms, granite countertops or not, and go the full bore. Most towns don't typically do that because of the cost, the time. By the time you get done doing all the work, you're
Mhm.
potentially, if you started this.
You've paid the assessors all that money and we haven't gained anything from it.
Whoever you contract, it's not necessarily our assessor, but whoever's doing. the
Whoever's
work, yeah.
doing that.
Actually, the more data you want, the more it's gonna cost. So,
Right.
yeah.
Most
Expensive,
typically
but-
will do the, square footage, the footprint of the structure. You're looking at all buildings on the property, making sure you've got them accounted for. Again, they'll look at kind of by neighborhood. You need the sales data, which every town, a lot of towns have now.
Mhm.
A lot of sales going on.
Getting there. You're saving money.
So
Yeah.
this part has gotten us out of, so at least we're compliant.
You're still above 70% and property owners are getting the full $25,000
Okay.
homestead exemption.
And how long is this good for?
Till you commit next.
Should we do another commitment? Yeah.
Like, it's good for a year. And then next year we have to.
Every year you do a commitment. So every year you look at values and adjustments. And so, yeah, it's a once a year.
Okay. So next year we might say, again, we're gonna do the same thing.
It's possible. It'd be something that you'd
See
hear
what
from
the-
the assessor's
See
agent.
what the
on.
assessor says.
The assessor.
Because we have an assessor that helps us with this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they'll look at the valuation report from the state. The state comes in every year and looks at sales data that's out there and looks at our valuation. They tell us, they give us a number, says, here's what our valuation of your community is. We have our assessed value, total tax commitment, and they're typically not spot on, but you don't want them too far apart. And so the state uses the state valuation number for our county commitment. That's what the county bases our taxes on, is the state's valuation report, not ours. And so that number does matter.
Mhm.
I think we would have been close to $100 million off this year if we didn't do anything.
That's bad.
It's a big number, yeah.
It's a big one to catch up on, like you said, Brunswick and Bath. We don't want to be doing that. So
No.
We're not alone in it.
Small shock.
Every coastal town's seen this.
Yeah.
We've
yeah.
talked about this correction for quite a few years
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Yeah, we talked about the last couple of years and
Mm.
yeah,
Mhm.
doing it, getting there. So cool. Andrea, any discussion items tonight?
No, I
You
haven't.
good? All right. Josh?
No, I just want to make sure before we start Hodgson Street project, there is a documented pre-construction meeting. Make sure make sure everybody's on the same page.
Oh, I had one last question. How
You
did
already
it work
went.
out on the shoulder work on Egypt? Was there an additional cost?
Yes. We're still working with the engineer and still will close that out.
How much?
We got a change order. It's public information. The change order came in, it was like 800 yards.
867, something like that.
Can't remember, 700 or 800 yards. The total cost at the $67 a yard was, I think, 48,000. So again,
On
working,
On top of what we originally contracted for, right?
so again, working with the engineer to work through all the change orders. We've got all the remaining balances to be paid. There's questions and comments that we need feedback and we need to provide to the contractor, and we'll have to get answers back. So
So just
And then we
work
have
with the engineer and we'll
engineers
go
to
from
do
there.
this.
So I have nothing else to add tonight, so
I'll make a
I'll
motion.
entertain a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to adjourn.
Right. Do I hear a second on that motion?
Second.
Tom seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, everybody signed. We had 3 items to sign this evening.
Yeah.
There. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.